Hello, thank you for listening to this talk. My name's Alice Mauchline. I'm a researcher at the University of Reading, and I'm going to talk to you today about some work that we're doing at the university funded by WeValueFood. And I've been working on a couple of different projects I'm going to talk to you about today. My colleague Mathieu Arnaud is working with me on one of them. So what is WeValueFood? Well, WeValueFood is the European Institute for Innovation and Technology, and WeValueFood are on a mission to solve complex societal challenges by deploying innovative solutions within the food system. And I've got a short video to play you that will give you a bit of explanation about WeValueFood.
We need to future-proof our food. Why? Because the world population is expected to reach almost 10 billion by 2050. And currently, we are facing many demographic, environmental, and health issues that are threatening the future of our food system. Today, almost 1 billion people go hungry globally, while twice that number eat too much of the wrong foods. Food production accounts for up to 30% of global greenhouse gas emissions, 40% of global land use, and 70% of freshwater consumption. To make matters worse, we waste almost a third of our food globally. We believe that we are all responsible for and connected to the food that we eat, so we all need to work together to improve it. At WeValueFood, we're building an inclusive and innovative community where the consumer is actively involved, so that we can deliver an innovative food sector that produces healthy and sustainable food, trusted by society. And how are we doing this? By creating and scaling up agri-food startups, by developing talents and leaders to transform the food system, by launching new innovative products and ingredients to deliver healthier and more sustainable food, and engaging the public so that they can become the agents of change in the food system. Let's build the future of food together. If you'd like to learn more about how we are transforming the food system, our projects, and to get involved, then please go to www.eitfood.eu. Look forward to seeing you there.
So as I said, WeValueFood have brought together a whole range of different partners, ranging from academic, research and industry backgrounds to try to tackle some of these difficulties and large societal problems that we face. So the University of Reading are central to a lot of the projects that have been going on for the last 2 or 3 years. And as you can see, the partners are spread all the way across Europe, and we're working with partners on multiple projects in many different countries. And we've been working in particular on trying to fill the skills gap, trying to come up with ideas and projects that can educate and innovate and bring new skills to the food sector to try and figure out ways to address some of these societal problems. And one of the projects that I wanted to talk to you about today was WeValueFood. So WeValueFood is a 3-year project funded by WeValueFood, and it's looking at how we can examine and try and overcome some of the problems involved with society's increasing disengagement with food, in particular focusing on young people. So WeValueFood are a consortium of partners led by the Queen's University in Belfast, along with a range of other organisations listed on this slide here. We're coming towards the end of the 2nd year of our project, and we wanted to address the problems, as I've said, but in particular there's issues around obesity in young people. We've got 1 in 3 11-year-olds identified as being overweight or obese in the European region, and I've also said that there's increased disengagement with food identified amongst the next generation of consumers. So the next generation of consumers are young people up to approximately the age of 24, and we're looking to try and engage those within our research to try and overcome some of the misunderstandings and some of the difficulties in engaging with where their food comes from, how it's produced, and how it can help feed them with their nutrition. So some of the stats that we've pulled out include the fact that 20% of young people believe that fish fingers are made from the fingers of fish. That was from a survey that was done in 2015. And that primary pupils, almost a third of them, think that cheese is made from plants. And there's also a disconnect between some of the cooking skills with our young people, and that 45% of parents, when surveyed, didn't believe that their children had the skills to be able to boil an egg. So the project itself, as I say, will be engaging with students and young people from primary through secondary and into tertiary education all across Europe, as well as talking to their parents, their educators, and also representatives from the agri-food industry. And we're trying to find different ways to support our next generation of consumers to make and communicate and make improved food choices, both in terms of their health, in terms of the environment, in terms of the way in which their food is produced, and how this can feed through into a thriving agri-food economy. So there's various different ways that we've chosen to address this. Firstly, we've done a large-scale study looking at all of the different educational resources that are currently available to help teachers to engage students on the topic of food. And on our website we've developed a matrix where lots of different tools will be available. For going through different search terms, educators can now find tools that are of relevance to them, that run for the amount of time that suits them, that focuses on the different topics of relevance, so that this new website will be available soon and should be able to also bring resources from one country across to another to allow different countries to gain value from other resources. We've also looked to work with educators to develop new tools and strategies to help educate students all the way through primary, secondary and tertiary about food and food production. And we've been looking at ways that we can scale this up and bring it into areas where levels of food disengagement are known to be high and where young people lack knowledge about food. Another aspect of the work will be working with the food industry about how to engage the next generation of consumers in a dialogue, less of a push in terms of marketing, but more in terms of how we can address these disengagement issues and bring a more healthy conversation between young people and the food industry. Another aspect of the work is building a community of food champions. So this is a network of young consumers who will discuss and share their food values. They'll be able to access new educational courses and have certain training available to them to allow them to share and communicate to their peers about their food and food values. And also we're bringing young people together with high-profile food stars such as chefs and social media influencers to bring the work that we're doing in WeValueFood to a large number of people across Europe. So the main topics that WeValueFood will be focusing on relate to the origin of food, where our food comes from, about food waste and ways that we can all reduce our own waste in our own homes, how food is produced and the impact that that has on the environment, food and health, so how we can look at what we eat in order to maintain healthy bodies, and food production in terms of the way that food is made and processed. We have a website which is eitfood.eu/innovation/projects/WeValueFood-2020. So please visit that website if you'd like to learn any more about the project. We have a Twitter hashtag of WeValueFood, and we also have an email address at wevaluefood@qub.ac.uk. So we'd very much like to hear from you if you're interested in being involved in this project in any way. So I'm just going to talk you through very briefly some of the results that we've got from this project and give you a bit of the latest information about where we are. So we've got 4 key groups of stakeholders. We've got new generation consumers, which is our young people. We've got parents, educators and industry. So some of the things that we're discussing with young people, our next generation consumers up to roughly the age 24, 26, We want to know what they think about food, whether they like it, dislike it, care about it, what bits they appreciate, all of the aspects. What do they think about when they think about food? We want to know where they find information about food and what information is currently missing and what you'd like to know more about. So if any of you are fitting into that category, we'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Please tweet these to WeValueFood, and we can always start a dialogue on Twitter. For parents, we're interested to know how you think your children currently engage with food, where they find out about food information, whether it's at home or at school, and what specific things you would like your child to learn or know about, and where you think there are currently gaps. So again, if you have any thoughts on that, we'd like to hear on Twitter, WeValueFood. So if you are an educator listening to this talk, we're interested to talk with you to find out about your thoughts relating to food education. How do you feel that children that you teach currently get enough information, and that you have sufficient access to resources to teach young people about food? And we'd also like to know whether there are any specific topics that you would like to include in your lessons that you particularly want your children to know about, and whether there's any resources we can create to support you. And at the moment, the work that we're doing at the University of Reading is looking about how food industry can engage with young people, and whether we can set up a dialogue between young people and industry representatives about communication strategies, what food values young people have, and if they match with the food industry's values, and whether the food industry can generate new ways of communicating with young people outside of the typical marketing streams, to see if we can create maybe a two-way dialogue between industry and young people. We'd be particularly interested with any food industry representatives in the area of Reading who are interested in this topic. We're currently running some workshops at the university, so we'd be very interested to hear from you if you're interested in engaging with this project in any way. I'll provide our contact details towards the end. So some of the results are starting to come in. As I say, the project's not been running very long, but we're starting to analyse some of the questionnaires and online focus groups that we've been running. So for next generation consumers, we're finding that older children or older younger people aged 18 plus are more engaged with food than younger children, and they're starting to see food as a way of kind of identifying finding their tribe, their identity. So for example, the student in Poland identified as being a working with veganism, looking and finding food that's been thrown away and finding other ways to use it. But that we've also identified there's a whole range of different influences that next generation of consumers are facing, and there are knowledge gaps, particularly in primary school age children, about the food chain, the steps in the food production process, and issues around animal welfare and food labelling. So we're looking to see if there is any way that the project can identify resources that can help educators in primary schools fill these current knowledge gaps. And from some of the results from the work we've been doing interviewing parents in various European countries, we also feel that they're identifying that younger children aren't linking or thinking about the food that they're eating and about where it comes from, and they're showing a certain level of disinterest. They're not getting involved in shopping or cooking, and although they believe the role of school is important, they also feel that there is a role that parents can support and discuss what students are learning at school when they're doing their own cooking at home. And when we've talked with educators, lack of time has been the one thing that's really been mentioned the most. The curriculum is currently very full, and educators don't have time to fit in more content, but they are interested to know if there are any educational resources that would mean that they could deliver some content relatively easily. And there's also limited finance to be able to support some of these, so we're looking at ways to provide online resources that are free to support teachers and educators. And with industry, the focus groups that we've been running with industry are understanding and addressing this disengagement of young people with food. And we've identified that this next generation of consumers have very much altruistic motives. They want to be caring for the environment. They want to be caring for our future of our planet. And that is a strong motive to be able to engage with young people and talk about the way in which our food is produced, and look to try and find ways that they can engage and understand and reconnect with food. And for industry representatives, the corporate social responsibility that they now have is a real driver towards engaging young people with this concept, to produce a more positive image for agri-food and promote smaller, more local industries that can connect with those local communities. So for industry, there are a number of barriers to do this, and these include cost, as always, and time, and some difficulties in reaching with schools, and that includes formalities and child safety issues in terms of possibly children visiting farms or going to visit food industry sites. But there's other ways that could be facilitated, and that's part of what this project is trying to do, is trying to connect these two groups, between industry that want to engage with young people and young people that want to engage with the food industry. So as I say, we're in the middle of doing a lot of this work, in particular the work with industry. So if anyone is interested in getting in touch, my email is a.l.mauchline@reading.ac.uk. I've put the project website here again, or please contact my colleague Matthew Arnaud at m.h.p.arnaud@reading.ac.uk. And I also just want to talk to you about some of the online courses that we've developed, funded by EIT Food, that provide an evidence-based online course that runs for 3 to 4 weeks for delivering content which will take about 2 to 3 hours of learning time within a sort of social online platform called FutureLearn. So one of the first ones that we were involved with is one called Trust in Our Food, and that course is going to be open again towards the end of this year, and learners can register and learn about issues relating to food safety, food nutrition and sustainable production. I've got a short trailer. Today, as consumers, we're increasingly concerned about what we eat, what food to buy, and how to make healthier, safer, and more sustainable food choices. By law, food produced for human consumption has to be safe, but it's impossible to eliminate all risk. So how can we trust that the food system is well regulated to minimise any risk and to ensure our food is safe to eat? We also want our food to be nutritious, but being surrounded by often conflicting information leaves us confused as to what is good for us. So how do we define nutrition and quality, and where can we find reliable information? We now buy much of our food from supermarkets rather than directly from the farmer. But what are the production methods used to produce our food, and how can we tell whether these production methods meet our own personal standards for environmental sustainability and animal welfare? On this course from EIT Food, you will start to explore some of these key questions. You will learn with experts from the University of Reading, the European Food Information Council and the University of Torino to consider the supply chains behind the food on our plate, and learn how consumer trust is at the core of an effective, future-proof food sector. So if you're interested in any of these online courses with FutureLearn, the University of Reading have produced several of them now. So in addition to the Trust in Our Food course, we've recently launched one relating to food supply chains in a time of crisis in response to the current pandemic. But we've also got 2 new ones launching soon on understanding food labels and food and nutrition, understanding the truth behind food headlines. And then there are some other courses relating to how food is produced and how farmers produce food sustainably, and the role of technology for sustainable farming systems. We have another course on engaging with controversies in the food system, and finally one on how to tackle food waste. So all of these courses and more are available on the FutureLearn platform under the partner at University of Reading or underneath the partner EIT Food. So please go online, and if you're interested, and sign up for some of these courses, and hopefully we'll see you there and explore some of these issues in a social learning environment. Thanks for listening to the course, and eitfood.eu has lots of information about all of the other projects. And I hope you enjoy the Reading Town meal on Saturday, and thanks for listening.